Looking for the best Game Week 1 captain? My name is Benji and I'm very excited to bring you my Game Week 1 captaincy analysis video, which is another video that's going to be a weekly series throughout this season. Every week we'll take a look at 4 popular captaincy options and their in-depth captaincy data. We'll rank them from first, second, third, with one other player earning the wildcard spot, which is for the player offering high risk, high reward. This week, the 4 players we'll be analyzing are Haaland, Salah, Bukayo Saka, and Alexander Isak. I've also got a top 3 rankings for the best Game Week 1 differential captains at the end of the video. So if you enjoy the video, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, thinking cap activated. This isn't just some 5-minute video that tells you who to captain based off XG or XA or predicted points or predicted minutes. For the past season, I actually have been using kickoff times, return rates, and a couple other measures to analyze the most optimal captains for each game week. I used to do this analysis in a Twitter thread every game week, but this season it's moved into video format. Here's the last 4 captaincy rankings from my threads, so you can see what kind of value I can offer to you. I did a special one for Game Week 38 with an extra player in it because it was the final game week, but I think you can see that we've got something cooking here. Let's move into the captaincy information. So, we've got each player's game information, and remember guys, all kickoff times are UK time zone, and all of my kickoff time data is UK time based as well. So we've got Erling Haaland predicted to play 85 minutes, Mohamed Salah predicted to play 90 minutes, Saka predicted to play 75 minutes, and Isak who's predicted to play 80 minutes. Now, these are my assumptions based on kind of how these guys have tracked in terms of their minutes throughout preseason. And so who should we start with? Let's start with Salah because he plays first. Oh, and by the way, guys, for each player, we're going to be looking at each of their individual statistics in each of the analysis categories. So the sections we're about to see when we look at the Salah analysis, that'll be the same categories for the other players as well. And so for Mohamed Salah, obviously he's never played Ipswich Town because they haven't been in the Prem, but well, they've been in the Prem, but they haven't been in the Prem recently. And so with Salah, I went and got his last season stats versus the promoted opposition. So last year, Salah started 4 games against the promoted guys and actually blanked in all 4. He only put up 9 points, which is actually quite surprising considering the caliber of player Mo is. We'd probably expect better, but now what does this mean for Game Week 1? Well, we shouldn't really take too much out of it because even though he didn't fare well against the promoted teams last season, it doesn't mean he's going to do that this season, but I will say it is something that could carry into this season. We've seen that with player trends in the past, so just keep wary of that. We're going to take a look at now how Salah has performed in all of his Premier League starts on Saturdays. So he started 102 times, which just shows you how long he's actually been at the very top level. And in these 102 starts, he's amassed 79 goals and 29 assists, which is very, very impressive. His Saturday return rate is 0.98. And so return rate, that's basically per start, how many goal involvements he's averaging. And 0.98, that's insanely high with the sample size of games he has for Saturday kickoffs. He's also averaging 7.3 points per start, which is quite strong as well. But let's see how these stats move when we filter in just away games. So Salah has started 48 times in Saturday games that were away from home only, and his return rate does drop to 0.94, which is a minimal regression, but his average points per start does drop to 6.5, which is much more of a significant drop. And that basically means he prefers Saturday home games, but he fares quite well in Saturday away games too, just slightly less consistent in those ones. But let's move into our next category, which is Salah in 12:30 p.m. kickoffs. So Mo has started 14 games, which kicked off at 12:30. That's the midday kickoff, and Liverpool have had quite a few of them last season. I remember Klopp complaining about them, but yeah, it's the early kickoff, and in 14 starts, Salah has registered 11 goals and 5 assists, 16 returns, and his return rate is 1.2 returns per start, which is very, very impressive. It actually ranks second best out of any of the attackers in this category. So Mo captain looks very, very locked for one return this week, and maybe even more because he's produced 5 double-digit hauls in those 14 starts, sorry, and he's averaging 9 points per start at 1230, which just shows you how strong Salah really is. When you compare these numbers to some of the other candidates, you'll see not only how impressive Salah's data is, but also because how many games for how many games he's played, his average points is extremely high, his return rate is extremely high, but also because his games played is very high. I mean, he's just been in the Premier League for ages, and to have numbers like these with such a large numerical sample size, it's just very, very, very good. And you're beginning to see that Mo will be up there for Gameweek 1 Captaincy Rankings. So if you weren't considering him, definitely think about Salah cap this weekend. Now let's filter Salah for 12:30 p.m. starts away from home only and see how this changes. So in 10 away starts, his return rate actually increases to 1.4, and his average points per start stays the same. And by the way, guys, this 9 average points per start, it's not rounded up. It's a flat, it's purely fat number. There's no 0.5, 6, 7 at the end. It's as pure as you can get. Now, in Salah's last 4 12:30 p.m. kickoffs, he's returned 11, 13, 5, 0, and 9 points, which just tells you how good he's really been at the 12:30 p.m. kickoff time. Next, let's move to Alexander Isak. Next, it's Alexander Isak. Now, Isak has only played one time against Southampton, and it was a home game in which he got 1 assist and 7 points. I believe Newcastle won that game 3-1, and I think it was around 2 or 3 seasons ago. But let's move into Isak in Saturday games. Now, he's started 23 times, and he's registered 15 goals and 3 assists, so basically 18 goal involvements, which averages out to a return rate of 0.8. Not as impressive as Mohamed Salah's, but if you think about it in isolation, it's still quite good because it's basically 0.8 returns per start, which isn't far from the 1 return guarantee. But Isak is averaging a disappointing 5.6 points per start, and it's only 4 double-digit hauls in the 23 Saturday starts. So in Isak's last 4 Saturday games, he's actually gotten 2 points, 7 points, 13 points, and 12 points, then 15 points, with the 2 points being the most recent game. So he's actually gotten 3 out of 4 of those double-digit hauls quite recently, which is a good sign of things to come. Now, let's take a look at Isak's data filtered for Saturday home starts, which he's starting at home in Gameweek 1, and in 13 starts, he's returned 14 involvements, and now his return rate jumps up to 1.1, which is expected given Newcastle's home form, and his average points per start jumps up to 7.5, which is very, very nice for an Isak captain. I've been doing these kind of analysis things for a while, and let's just say that Isak's got a nice home fixture, and you've just filtered for home games only, and you see that average points per start come up. That's a very, very good sign. Just telling you that right now. So I'm beginning to like the Isak captaincy here. Let's take a look at Isak in 3 p.m. kickoffs. Isak has started only 4 times at 3 p.m. So straight away, let's note that it's a low sample size of games. And so he's produced 3 goals and 2 assists in those 4. His return rate is indicative of 1 return locked for 3 p.m. games. And his average points per start suggests that as well. 7.75 average points per start. Isak's only registered 1 double-digit haul in a 3 p.m., but he's only played 4. That explosivity will come with Isak, and maybe the Southampton game is the right time to pounce. When we filter for home games only, Isak has scored 2 goals and 2 starts in 3 p.m. kickoffs at St. James's Park, and so this would be his 3rd game at 3 p.m. at home. In both of those starts, he got 8 points. Next, let's move to Bukayo Saka. Next is Bukayo Saka, who plays Wolves at the Emirates in Gameweek 1. Saka started 9 times against Wolves, and he's only scored 3 goals, which isn't amazing. In games versus Wolves only at the Emirates, he started 4 and scored 2, so his record does improve with the filter, but it's not great, really. Now, in 3 p.m. kickoffs, Saka has started 14 times, scoring 6 goals and assisting 5, which puts his return rate at 0.8 returns per start, similar to Alexander Isak, who we just had a look at. He's averaging 6.2 points per start in the 3 p.m. games, and in his last 3, Saka has scored 15, then 8, then 5, which is nice consistency. At home, Saka has started 9 times and he's registered 7 goal involvements. His return rate doesn't move, it stays at 0.8 returns per start, but his average points per start does drop to 5.4. Saka has had a good sample size of starts on Saturday, 57 starts, and he's registered 32 attacking returns in those matches, which averages out to the worst return rate in any category we've seen yet. His 5.2 average points per start is also very low, which tells you he's blanked a lot of games on Saturday. Let's filter for Saturday home games. Bukayo's numbers do improve, his average points per start increases, and his return rate increases slightly as well, which means he has that home game preference, which we see a lot in our data. He's got that home game preference for Saturdays, which is a good thing for a Saka cap this weekend if you do like that. In his last 3, he scored 10, then 2, then 10, which just shows you he can score pretty decently in these Saturday at home games. Looking at Saka's data, Arteta played him when he was young quite a lot and in quite a number of positions like left back, right back, left wing back. So some of those blanks are from that as well, but he's got plenty of them in the past 2 to 3 seasons as well in terms of those blanks. He's got them in the last 2 to 3 seasons. Now we're going to move on to the one and only robot, Erling Haaland. Finally, Erling Haaland, who plays Chelsea on Sunday. Haaland has started 3 Premier League matches against Chelsea and he's registered 2 goals and 1 assist, which both came in a single match, which was Chelsea away last season. In Sunday kickoffs, Haaland has 15 goals and 17 assists in just 16 starts. That brings his return rate to 1.4, which is that's insane, dude. He's also averaging 7.75 points per start, which just tells you how explosive he's been, but he's also had a couple blanks in this kickoff, and if we take a look at his last 3 Sunday games, he's scored 2 points in all of the last 3. If we filter for away games on Sunday only, Haaland sees his average points per start drop from 7.75 to 7, and his return rate also drops from 1.4 to 1.1. But he's still got 10 involvements in 9 starts in Sunday away games, and in fact, his last 3 Sunday away games, he's scored 2 points, 2 points, then 16 points. Now, Haaland in 4:30 p.m. kickoffs, he started 8 games and he scored 11 goals with 4 assists, a return rate of 1.9 returns per start, which is just insane. That's the highest return rate out of any player in any category in this video, so it just shows you Haaland is explosive, man, and this is a kickoff time he actually really likes. He's only had 1 blank in 8 starts at this kickoff time, but that blank was actually Spurs away. He's also averaging 10.4 points per start, which is indicative of explosivity and 2 returns, maybe even more. Never, don't even think about 1. You're thinking about 2 with that kind of points per start ratio. But look, you got to take everything into consideration. We'll discuss all of the picks in the captaincy rankings. Now, Erling's lost 5 4:30 p.m. kickoffs. He scored crazily 21 points, 7 points, 16 points, 12 points, then 12 points, with that 21 pointer being that game against Wolves at home, that crazy game where he scored 4 goals. And yeah, I remember I did recommend him as the top option that week, so I do feel quite comfortable when I do catch those Haaland holes. I know I have a good gut feeling with Haaland. Now, let's filter for away games for 4:30 p.m. kickoffs only for Haaland. Now, Haaland's data does see regression in his return rate, which drops to 1.9 to 1.5, and his average points per start slides down to 9.8, which, look, they are big decreases in terms of data, and with Haaland, these big decreases can mean a lot because he's just so explosive. Sometimes you need to factor the regression in when you look at his data because, yes, look, he's had 1 blank, and that blank was an away game. And, he's playing a London team in the Gameweek 1, Spurs away, Chelsea away, the fixture thing. So there's just a lot to think about with Haaland and Gameweek 1 captaincy. So let's move on finally to the captaincy rankings. Now, before we get into these rankings, you need to know that these rankings could change. Captaincy means you need the maximum amount of information to make the best decision. So, if my captaincy rankings do change before the Game Week 1 deadline based on new leaks, injuries, or press conference news, make sure to follow me on any of my socials. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, so go follow at least one of those accounts. The link is in the video description, but make sure to follow at least one because I'll be posting an update if there's any news which changes the captaincy landscape, therefore changing the rankings. But now, let's get into the rankings. And first, in the wildcard position, I've got Erling Haaland. When I do my rankings, I have to consider everything as a package, and the fact he's playing Chelsea in Game Week 1, I think you're just risking yourself too much by captaining him because there's better fixtures elsewhere. And Chelsea are a bit of a bogey team. You don't really know if they're going to turn up or not. So I think there's safer and maybe even wiser places to invest your armband stocks. But that's the thing with the wildcard pick, right? It's high risk, it's high reward. I remember a couple of times actually, I've actually gone with the wildcard spot that I've picked for that game week and I've captained that player for my own team. And funnily enough, I did captain Haaland when he was in the wildcard spot when he played Chelsea away last season and he scored 16 points. But that's the same as Salah, right? Salah also scored 16 points, but I put Haaland there because he was high risk, high reward, and my risk appetite was there, and he scored 16 points, which was nice, right? But Salah also scored 16 points, so it didn't even really work out. And there's been other occasions, like I captained Watkins in the wildcard spot a while ago. I also did captain Son in game week 37 in the wildcard spot, and Haaland absolutely destroyed him. So it works out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But if your risk appetite is high, perhaps you go there. And I mean, look, he's explosive, man. And if you really don't rate Chelsea, if your risk appetite is high, and if you do want that big gain pick that's gonna get you massive rank if he bangs, nobody offers you higher game than Haaland because he's explosive, and if he bangs against them, you could be sitting on 100 points in game week 1. And that's why we have this spot every week, because some people want to play more risky, some people want to play more safe. If you are capping Haaland in game week 1, let me know in the comment section, because genuinely I'm actually interested to see how many Haaland captainers there are out there. Now, into the top 3, and third place is Bukayo Saka. He can do decent against Wolves, but his data it's just not indicative of explosive returns, the same level of explosivity as Haaland, Isak, or Salah this week. So he does get the third spot, and the fact he's just back from the Euros, he did get minutes in preseason, and he will start on Saturday, I do expect. But I also expect Arteta to build up his minutes a bit more, and if the game's 2-0 Arsenal 75 minutes, I think Arteta will choose to shave Saka's game time because the fixture schedule does get busy quick, and there may not be a game until game week 6 or 7 where Saka won't be playing 90s. So not this week for Saka, guys. And now, for the best captain for game week 1, it is Mohamed Salah. Consistent in game week 1. He's returned in game week 1 for 7 or 8 seasons consecutively, but he brings you that reliability, and he also gives you that real explosivity potential. I mean, he's just looking at his impressive data for the kickoff time in combination with the Ipswich fixture in game week 1. I expect Salah to do very, very well in game week 1, and his expected minutes for the Ipswich fixture are the strongest out of all of the players. His data was top 2 in almost every category, so he's my best pick for game week 1. And look, even though his record against the promoted teams last season was poor, I still think he's the best captain this game week. And if you own him, 100% your captaincy armband should be on Mohamed Salah. Now, second, it is Alexander Isak, who I think is still a very good option, probably the safest option, just in case you're worried about that Salah promoted team's blank fest carrying into this season. But Isak is not the best option in my opinion. Still a very good one though, and if you don't own Salah, I'd recommend captaining Isak, or if your risk appetite is high, go for Haaland. If you want to know who I'm captaining in Game Week 1, follow me on any Thinking Cap social. You can get my fully locked Game Week 1 team. Now, let's move into the differential options. Now for my top 3 differential captains, and they are Son against Leicester City. I think he offers a lot of upside. I think Leicester have been very poor in preseason, and just because of that, I really like the Spurs captaincy this week. If Son was in my captaincy analysis video, perhaps he probably would be actually up there for me because I think he's got a very good record against Leicester. Monday kickoff as well. He likes the Monday kickoffs, and Solanke against Leicester is also in there at second place. Look, I do expect Solanke to start, and I think he could start with a bang against Leicester. They're looking very poor. Gordon is also in there at third. I really like Gordon for this week. He offers a good option if, let's just say, you're not particularly interested in Salah and you don't have Isak in your team because you have Haaland and like a bunch of 5.5s. Maybe then you can think about Gordon, but even then I would probably just still go with a penalty taker. But Gordon, he could produce something magical against Southampton. I won't go against him in saying that. And some honorable mentions are Bruno Fernandes against Fulham, Martin Odegaard against Wolves, and Danny Welbeck against Everton. And that's a wrap on my Game Week 1 captaincy analysis. If you took absolutely any insight out of this video at all, then hit that subscribe button, activate your Thinking Cap, and if you want to know how I'm lining up for Game Week 1, check out my Game Week 1 team selection video. Who's your Game Week 1 captain? Let me know in the comment section.